let's get into my first film that may or may not be in my top 10 of 2019, but we're talking Ford v Ferrari. That's right, Ford v Ferrari came out in 2019 in November, late 2019. If you're unfamiliar with the story of Ford v Ferrari, it's a sort of biopic, based off of a true story. American car designer Carroll Shelby and driver Ken Miles battle corporate interference and the laws of physics to build a revolutionary race car for Ford Motor Company in order to defeat Ferrari at the 24 Hours of Le Mans in 1966. So this is definitely back in the day. So it's directed by James Mangold, and if you're unfamiliar with him, he's done some older films. He's done Identity, which is based off of a Stephen King novel starring John Cusack, I believe. Never saw it, but I heard good things about it. He directed 3:10 to Yuma, which is a really good Western, also with Christian Bale in it. And he also is responsible for The Wolverine, not Wolverine Origins, The Wolverine. That's like that whole Japanese one. And also he directed and wrote and produced Logan. So that's the big one. That's really, really impressive. Logan is really great. Not the most original film. I mean, it's pretty much The Last of Us, but with, the Wolverine placed in there. But just because it isn't original doesn't mean it's not fucking amazing. So yeah, Logan is an incredible film. I love Logan. So yeah, so a talented director, very talented director. The two main actors in this one are Christian Bale, he plays the driver Ken Miles, and Matt Damon, who plays Carroll Shelby, the guy who's the car designer. Him and Ken Miles kind of team up. They get hired by Ford to compete with Ferrari in this Le Mans 24-hour long race. So they need to design and race a Ford car, and basically the whole story is Ford is trying to beat Ferrari and build up their sales because they've been dropping off a little bit here. John Barenthal is also co-stars in. He plays Lee Iacocca, which is really cool. He does a really good job. But that's pretty much it with the major actors in the film. I will say now, this is definitely a car junkie type of film. If you're really into cars and racing and stuff like that, like I know a lot of people in the construction industry who would probably absolutely love this film. I mean, they talk specifics with cars and like models and RPMs, horsepower type of stuff that a lot of car junkies are very into. I mean, I've never been a huge car junkie because I was never really raised with cars, but they always fascinated me, and I'm always very interested to hear what other people such as my coworkers talk about them because they're very passionate about it. Now, is this a film that's just for car junkies though? Is this just a car junkie film though? Well, let's get into this because I would disagree with that statement. I think this is a film that everybody can enjoy. Let's just get into the specifics of why I think this film is pretty incredible. The film takes place in 1966, so it's back in the day. It's in the 60s, and I think the filmmakers do an exceptional job with capturing the time. I mean, I'm talking. Obviously, the use of classic cars definitely helps, and the cars that they use in the film are really cool, and I think just the aesthetic of these cars are really sick, and the way they race them, they drive them is very, very awesome. But I mean, also the music, the classical jazz saxophone type, brass horn music is very 60s feel, which I liked a lot. The locations and costuming, clearly have the whole 60s filter on it, and they capture the general feel of the time period very well, and that's something that I'm sure is extremely hard to do. So we're 2020 now. That was what, fucking 60 years ago now, so crazy. But another thing, the racing scenes are unbelievable. They're unbelievably good. The racing scenes are exceptional. You can always bring up Fast and Furious is really cool too. Yeah, but it's not realistic at all. Fast and Furious can be cool, but like it's not like this big word that I always love to use in my podcast episodes, visceral, realistic, has that intensity to them. That's what this film has. The racing scenes in this do not disappoint, and when it's like kind of scary, it's scary and intense. Like when people crash and like burn up, like it's actually legitimately scary. And like there's scenes in this where Ken Miles is in the car and like he's pushing the car very hard, because that's kind of a big issue with, trying to generate as much speed with the Ford vehicle, especially the engine that they like, it just like, can the car take it for, 24 hours? But so yeah, like sometimes it's like, oh, he's pushing the car a little too hard, and like you can die. Like drivers have died in this, and there's some close calls, and it supplies with very suspenseful scenes, especially the final, Le Mans 24-hour race at the very end. It doesn't disappoint. It's incredibly hyped up, and it meets and exceeds expectations almost. I mean, again, my expectations for this film were really high because I heard nothing but positive things about it, but I didn't really expect this film to be this good. So it's very rare that a film almost exceeds my expectations, because my expectations are rarely met. Sorry if I think my hair is kind of getting fucked up, but you don't come for my hair. It's such a random thought, Michael. Stay on target. Jesus Christ. Stay on target with the film. Ford v Ferrari here. But yeah. So yeah, the racing is phenomenal. Now, I mentioned that this film really they could be said, oh, it's only for car junkies, it's only a car junkie type of film, and I said I would disagree with that. One, because the story is incredible. I think it's a very relatable story. Also, the acting is incredible. Well, I'll get to the acting a little bit later. Let's tackle one issue at a time here. So the main story, yes, there's cars and racing involved, but it's really about, passion, and having a passion about something and standing for that passion and going through with it, and basically knowing what's important in a situation, because an issue ends up, Ford is doing this to sell cars, and that they might sacrifice other people's, desires, such as our main character's passion for racing and cars and all of that. And that's incredibly relatable. My passion is films and, entertainment and doing this. And I didn't really let anything get in the way. There's a lot of reasons why I shouldn't have done this podcast. There's a lot of reasons, but I mean, like, obviously I'm not making any money doing this. This is a hobby to me, but it's also a passion of mine. Ken Miles does racing and works on car as a passion. He doesn't really do it for the money. And, Carroll Shelby also feels the same way. And Ford is clearly in this for, selling cars. I mean, they are a company. They're a corporation. And, that is very relatable to a lot of people. Sometimes your passion doesn't bring home the bread and doesn't put food on the table. And that's really, it sucks, because I think everyone should try to pursue, their passion and try to find ways on how to work and incorporate their passion into their work, because I think it helps you build a more fulfilling life. So this, I thought, was a very, very cool, and it really surprised me how amazing they pinpoint and zoned in on that theme with this film. It takes this film to another level. I mean, yes, the racing and, the aesthetics and the technicality behind that they put forward in building, this Ford race car is very cool and very fascinating. And I don't know how accurate the film is, but it seems pretty accurate. I mean, it doesn't really seem very overblown, but, and it's a very suspenseful film, and it's very intense, and it's a very well-made film. But I was really surprised with the thematic qualities of the film and how much it actually touched me emotionally. And so I was really surprised with that, and it really increased my love for this one. So let's talk about the acting a little bit. The best part about this film is Christian Bale. I mean, I will, kind of give a disclaimer. I'm a huge Christian Bale fan. he's one of my favorite actors ever. So every time I see him, I'm always excited. But I mean, it's for good reason. He brings it every time. I mean, I think one of my little nitpicks is that, Matt Damon's performance is good, but I mean, his accent definitely slips up here and there. It's definitely not very authentic, such like Christian Bale. I mean, Ken Miles, I think he's English. I mean, Christian Bale himself is Welsh, so it's not that hard of a transition. But Christian Bale has always nailed the accents, and he's a dedicated actor. He dedicates himself to a role. Look at The Machinist, look at Vice, look at the Batman films, 3 different weight classes that he is, and The Machinist, he's pretty much starving himself. He's a skeleton. In Vice, he's very overweight to play Dick Cheney. And in the Batman movies, he actually shows up to set and Christian Bale is like, bro, you're too buff. So it's kind of, yeah, that's actually true. So he actually got too jacked for Batman. But anyway, so, yeah, Christian Bale brings it. He steals every scene that he's in. And, yeah, I mean, it was kind of really hard for me to find any negatives with this. I mean, maybe the film's a little too long. It's a long film. I think it's over 150 minutes, it's like around 2.5 hours long. But, I mean, I was entertained throughout the whole film. I mean, like I said, Matt Damon's accent isn't the consistently good, but I mean he gives a good performance, and there's scenes that he's really good. And so I mean, there's really nothing to not like about this film. Does it have the movie magic? I mean, what do you think, guys? What do you think? Yeah, it does. I mean, given what I've said about this film, of course it has the movie magic. I mean, we're talking about amazing racing scenes, intense, suspenseful, great story, your relatable characters, relatable themes that can really get to you emotionally, especially at the end. Top-notch acting, top-notch directing, especially if you like, type of films that go back in time, especially that 60s time period. This is definitely a film for you. If you're a car nut, this is a must watch for you. So yeah, Ford v Ferrari, it's phenomenal. Check it out. And spoiler alert, it might be mentioned a little bit later on this episode of Nerd Out Sanctuary. So